And a very good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Issues and Attitudes. My name is Jeff Owens, Interim General Manager at WEIU TV and Radio. My guests today are Everett Lau and Stephen Elmore. They are both EIU weather students here at WEIU, as well as the EIU Weather Center. Welcome, guys.
Thank you for having us.
I appreciate you coming in. And actually, we had another guest scheduled, but because of the weather here in Illinois today, she had to move her schedule up to April, and so Everett and Stephen were lucky enough to be around and could come in. And I think it's apropos because we're having some crazy weather out there. It looks like maybe the next batch is getting ready to start. So why don't we start with there, Everett? You know, what can people expect this afternoon in central Illinois?
So we had round one move through overnight, and that produced some light amounts of snow. I have some totals that we can get to later. But yeah, round two is what we're expecting to be the highest. We had that winter storm warning issued yesterday, and that's because forecast models indicated that this second round could be stronger. So that's what we're watching out for. The snow is already starting to move into central Illinois. It will continue to move through the evening hours, and we could see some of those higher snowfall rates of potentially 1 to 2 inches an hour. So that's obviously going to cause some visibility issues on the roads. But in addition to that, we're also worried about blowing and drifting snow because we'll have wind gusts up to 25 miles an hour. So that's also going to make it hard for the road crews to keep those roads clear. So if you don't have to travel tonight, not going to be advised, so stay home if you can.
And you have anything to add there, Stephen?
Yeah, so with that heavy amount of snow coming in this afternoon, we've already seen IDOT. They've been updating their models all day today. Those road conditions are already starting bad, and snow's already going to continue to fall as we get to the rest of the night. So IDOT's continuing to work probably for the rest of the night to get these roads clear, but you can already see there, we're in that deep pink and purple for the whole area. So really, road conditions are our main concern throughout the rest of the night.
And I know you two are going to keep people updated all afternoon, starting off with this show. This show obviously replays at about, we're at 12:30, and then there's going to be some cut-ins tonight during, after news watch is over. There'll be cut-ins all evening as well. So that's kind of where we're at right now. One of the things I want to talk about a little bit, because when I watch weather forecasters in the area, including you two, is that the one thing that I always think is important to the consumer, and I think you guys sometimes think forecast, but the consumers think, I think what you hit on a little bit there, Stephen, is the road and travel conditions. How much of that do you kind of try to add into a forecast, or is it something that is not as important because you want to get the details out?
That's definitely something we want to impact because obviously the forecast is going to impact the people. So road conditions, especially with IDOT, we try to update those road conditions because, people may have evening plans, maybe a night shift at work. So that's something we always try to incorporate, not only the forecast, but, okay, here's the forecast and this is how it's directly going to affect you. And especially outside of, winter storms, if it was something lighthearted, we try to feature community events going on over the weekend, things like that so people know how to plan what to wear and what to dress for.
I know one thing. Yesterday afternoon, I went out to eat for Valentine's Day, and before I left, it was like, we're going to get maybe 1 to 3 inches total over the next 36 hours. Well, I was going like an hour and a half, and I come back, and then there's people posting on social media that all of a sudden, Stephen, it was up to like 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 inches before Tuesday morning gets here. So did something drastically change Sunday afternoon when you guys were looking at things and you knew that, wow, this is kind of red alert time?
Yes, we knew that first round was going to come today at some point, and then as we got closer, we started to realize that this second round is not only going to bring more snow, but it's going to be heavier, and that wind's going to start to pick up. So really, that second round is what doubled that snow total from about 1 to 3, and then we updated it to now we're looking at about 5 to 8 across, even a little bit more in some areas. So that second round is going to be heavier, and that wind is going to be continuing blowing that snow around.
I know you guys are talking about snow totals and everything when it comes to. You had some totals in there. How do you actually figure out a little bit of how people are, how much snow we got, but then how much we expect over the next 2 days? How does that work? I mean, tell us the science.
So basically, we look at a bunch of different forecast models that we have access to with our weather software at the station. And so there's the GFS model, which is the American forecast model. There's European model, Canadian. Without getting into too much technical details, we just compare those models, and then we also reference the National Weather Service forecast and read some of their forecast discussions and try to pinpoint what we're looking at. Obviously, it's going to depend on the temperatures. Right now, it's very cold, obviously, so the snow is very light and fluffy, so it's not going to be a heavy, wet snow, so it won't take as much liquid precipitation to create more snow. So that's something that goes into it, looking at how much water content is in the snow itself, and then we just continue to monitor those forecast models because obviously as the system moves, they'll update the track, and so it's just a constant updating of those.
So what do we got so far, and then what do you expect over the next 24 hours?
So as of this morning, I just measured around 10:45 outside the studios here in Charleston, 2.5 inches, which is pretty hard to tell measurements at this point because it's blowing around a lot. Neoga had 3 inches, Lovington and Tuscola just over 2 inches, and we're anticipating 5 to 8 inches total by the time we get to tomorrow morning, and we may up those just a little bit more depending on this forecast track. We'll actually be talking with our Professor Cameron Craig after this show to get those latest updates on Newswatch at 5:30. So yeah, especially further east you are in the hit mix area and WEIU viewing area, you may see up to 10 inches of snow, and some isolated spots may even see a foot before this is all said and
And
done.
it's worse south? Is that what's safe to say right now?
Yeah, so last night we looked at Clark, Crawford, Jasper, and Vigo. We put them in that 7 to 10 inches of snow already. And as this track, like Everett was talking about, continues to develop, they could even see upwards of that 10-inch range. So we're going to continue to look at these models and see if we need to bump up a few inches as this track is now going right over our area.
Now, take us behind the scenes. You know, this afternoon when you're getting ready for your 5:30 News Watch, and you two are working together to prepare the WEIU forecast for the 5:30 Live News Watch. What all do you do? I mean, take us through this afternoon, you know, a little bit if you can.
So I'll start with my forecast. Actually, I have some news stories to write in addition to that. So I'll start with that after the show. But then I will go to the Weather Center and I'll fine-tune my forecast because obviously in addition to the winter storm, we're going to be worried about the snow totals over the course of the day. So I'll forecast the snow, and then the 7-day forecast, we still have to air that one. So I'll put that all together. After I have my numbers, I'll then work on our weather graphics and updating those numbers. And then lining up my show, I'll plan which alerts and which order I want my show to be. As of right now, I have about 3 to 4 different hits during the 5:30 show. So I'll work on all those. After I get that done, we'll probably do some more Facebook updates, and then I'll get dressed, put my makeup on, and get ready for the show, and then we'll roll with 5:30.
All right. Well, Rob Kelly was switching out a mic there, so he did really good. So now, Stephen, what about you? How do you assist him this afternoon in preparation?
Yeah, so tonight I'm not on. I'll be on for tomorrow, but as Everett goes into the show tonight, I'll be able to, you know, if he needs to get an update on the model, or if I'll step outside with the meter stick and get, up to date how much is right outside for Charleston, or if I just need to, again, check some models for him, help him update, get him ready make it less stressful as possible on him as he's going into a stressful night tonight.
A little personal question here for both of you. What got you so interested in being a weather student, weather forecaster, probably going into this post Eastern Illinois University?
Well, I've been interested in weather since I was like 4 or 5. Always said I wanted to be a weatherman. And we had some storms move through back in 2011 that really got me interested in severe weather. That was a pretty active severe weather season. So ever since then, I've just been, weather nut locally and throughout high school and college. And so here I am just chasing my dream. So days like this are very fun for me. Stressful at times, but very fun.
I don't know for sure. Is this something you want to go into?
Yeah, it's definitely something I want to go into now. I'm the complete opposite as Everett, though. I came in undecided. And actually, we mentioned Cameron Craig earlier. He's the one that got me into weather. I just took his intro to weather and climate class just to get that credit out of the way almost. And I ended up falling in love with weather. And so since then, I've been coming to WEIU and meeting Everett. How many years ago now? I don't know, but getting into that. So
that's cool. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. You talked about Cameron Craig and obviously Kelly Goodwin, the news director. What have they meant for you in terms of preparing yourself for postgraduate jobs and direction?
Yeah, so Cameron Craig, definitely great with the science. He is great at explaining it in different ways people can understand, which I think is really important in TV to make sure it reaches out to our audience and knowing that. And so anytime you have a question, you can always ask him for advice, and he'll reply right back. He's there for the show and is able to give you feedback. And then Kelly, of course, is great with preparing us. A lot of success here at Newswatch. I fully believe that Newswatch is an award-winning program because of the work she puts into the program, very dedicated into it, and so she kind of throws you into the fire with new things, but that's the best way to learn them, so you always can expand your horizons, and I've learned a lot more than I thought going into it because I've produced, reported, even sports anchored, which who knew that would happen, but here we are.
Anything to add, Stephen?
Yeah, so again, like Cameron just got me ready to go with the science and everything, and even the intro to broadcasting stuff, but Kelly, without her, I would have never been able to advance my broadcasting skills into weather and now doing news every Wednesday. So without Kelly, like Everett said, the show wouldn't be the same.
There you go. The other thing that's going on right now besides the snow is really what I think is the worst part is the cold. So Where's the light at the end of the tunnel? How long was it going to stay cold, and what can we expect?
We actually do have light at the end of the tunnel. If we can make it to this weekend, we may make it above freezing. So, that's breaking in itself. Average is actually in the low 40s for this time of year. Obviously, we've been nowhere near that. We've been below freezing for over a week. I think not last Friday, but the previous Friday was the last time we had a temperature of above 32. And so if we can get through there, we've got light at the tunnel, but we do have more snow in the forecast too coming Wednesday, Thursday.
I was going to ask you about there. I know we've got this thing. It's going to hit us till tomorrow morning probably. Then Wednesday, possible more snow. Are we looking at amounts then, or do you know yet?
It's a little too far out to tell, but it could be another round of accumulating snow. I don't think it'll be quite as much as this round we're expecting, but anything additionally, obviously it's so cold we're not going to be losing any of the snow, so it's just going to add on to what we already have out there.
Well, let Stephen go on this next question first. When you are putting together a forecast and you're working to get ready for 5:30 or your nightcap or whatever, where all do you pull from? What are your sources for weather?
Yeah, so we use COD, which is just we use for GFS and stuff to get the models updated, and we check National Weather Service just to make sure whatever we predict from that is somewhat near what we want to do. And then we use Futurecast with our own program with Max and stuff to see when the storm or rain or whatever it may be is going to come and what it looks like for the people for the future. And then we have some other winds and temperature-wise that we use, but we used a lot of the models that we have with Max and our own computer to update it.
One of the things I know about forecasting is growing up, and I was always a radio guy, is that some radio stations, some TV stations really like to talk about wind chill factor. Others say don't even mention it because it's not really, quote unquote, a proven science or thing in weather. What are your guys' thoughts on wind chill factor and wind chill?
I definitely use it, and I think it's important because that is what you feel. And there's no doubt that if you go out, when it's cold and it's not windy, it's not as bad. Like the common Illinois Midwest saying, well, if it wasn't for the wind, it wouldn't be so bad. So it's definitely, you feel the difference when you go outside. So I'm not opposed to using it at all, and we always incorporate it into our forecasts.
I use it all the time, almost every day especially where we're at right now, we're feeling like we're in the negatives. The temperature is almost kind of lying to you right now. I think earlier yesterday last night we were looking at 3 degrees, but it felt like negative 17. So if you're stepping outside, you see 3 degrees. Even though that's cold, it feels a whole lot colder with that wind chill. So I use it all the time just to show people what it actually feels like.
And to date myself, my first job was at WLBH AM and FM way back in the 60s when I was going to Eastern, and there was a sign in the studio, don't use wind chill in the forecast. And so I always remember that. It's like I always ask why. Well, it's not real. And so it's funny how that's really become part of your repertoire in broadcasting. We're talking to Everett Lau and Stephen Elmore, EIU weather students here on campus, obviously with weather hitting this afternoon. Why don't we give an update of what we can expect this afternoon, evening, and maybe even through tomorrow, Everett and Stephen, we'll put you on the spot to give us a forecast here.
Okay, so for the overnight tonight, we're expecting that heavier snow to move in through the evening hours, so the evening commute could be treacherous out there. In addition to the heavy snow reducing visibility, we'll also see some blowing and drifting snow causing some issues. In addition, it's still going to be cold. That just kind of take the back burner with the snow falling. And we're looking at about 5 to 8 inches by the time all said and done, potentially higher amounts, especially further east you are. And we could see those totals approaching 10 inches in some areas, if not locally higher amounts closer to a foot. But it's just going to be really hard to tell with the blowing and drifting. So either way, it's just going to be a lot of snow and more than we've been used to here lately.
I think in what people are looking for, what they want to look for, I think that blowing snow is the biggest factor tonight, especially if you're going anywhere. Those high winds, we got those winds coming out from the northwest, gusts upwards of 25 miles an hour. That's what's really going to make driving hazardous, not only with this snow, but then if you're going anywhere, that wind's going to blow you off the, not off the road, but across the road. And then as well, again, it's cold. It's extremely cold right now. And we're in the negative still. Like Everett said, we're not going to get above that freezing point for still a couple days now. So extreme cold and that blowing snow.
Well, the other thing I want to ask you about is a little bit, when you think about the next, let's say even 48 to 72 hours, do you think this will be the last big snow? Or do you think that, I've seen it snowed big time in March here a few years ago, so.
Yeah, sometimes we can get those surprise snowstorms. Luckily, they don't stay around because it's typically warmer. But I would say there's a pretty good chance that this week will probably be the last because it kind of looks like the pattern shifting again. Obviously, we've been cold for the last 2 weeks. So if we can get the Arctic air to go back up into the Arctic, I think we'll have better chances of seeing some more rain instead of snow. But I wouldn't rule out snow completely. As you said, we've had snows in March, but I would say that this storm is probably going to be the biggest one we have of the year.
I know snow events are always exciting for the weather guys because it's something, that you really are almost at work 24/7. You're thinking about it and it becomes part of your life. But what about the folks in Texas today who are having 4 or 5 inches of snow in some spots where they never get that much in a decade? I mean, would you want to be a forecaster down there or not? What's your mind about your fellow brethren in Texas today?
I think that would be a real interesting perspective for us, because obviously if we say 4 inches of snow, we're like, oh, that's just Tuesday. But down there, that's like life shattering. So I think it would be a really interesting perspective for me personally, growing up with winter weather, to go down there and just seeing how everyone reacts and how it just shuts down. But I know the entire state of Texas was under a winter storm warning at one point yesterday, and they don't know that that's ever happened from the top panhandle all the way down to the Mexican border. So
that's crazy.
Yeah, when we saw the entire state was that pink color at National Weather Service yesterday, I was immediately, what is it? What are they going to do down there? But it's different. Not only winter weather, but they've got extreme weather all the time down there in Texas. So to add from that extreme weather during the summer months, and then now they got to repeat that again with winter, and they're getting 5 inches of snow, whatever it may be down there. It would be extremely interesting to get to work down there and see what it's like.
Now, are you in touch with like IDOT and things like that for road conditions when you get ready for your forecast? Do you use those folks at all?
Yeah, we use the same website that they recommend everyone else use, gettingaroundillinois.com, and they update county by county road conditions and then also the interstate. And new this year, they added traffic cameras, so you can actually see what the road looks like several interstates before you head out. And so we use that and then input that data into our graphics for TV.
The other thing that's involved with weather forecasting, and you guys are really good at this, is the use of social media with your forecast, because it can be immediate. You don't have to wait till 5:30 to give a quote-unquote WEIU forecast. So how do you go about with your social media and talk about a little bit when you put a forecast or put together a social media hit, for lack of a better way to say it?
So I typically try to make them a little more extended, because obviously you're not limited to how much time you can have. So social media can be unlimited. And you can also have a dialogue. People can ask questions, and you can kind of give it a more detailed forecast if needed. And like you mentioned, you can do it anytime. You're not confined to a certain time frame. So I kind of set them up like I do the show, but I try to make them a little more interactive and just explain it a little more detailed than what we would during the 5:30 show.
I think the visual aspect for social media is the biggest part. While we're doing that 5:30 hit, we're clicking through slides and stuff, and somebody might need to go back and see what we were just showing, so we can basically use what we show during the 5:30 show and just permanently put it on social media, so anybody can go back and check out what it's going to be like.
Will you be doing that this afternoon then? People can expect to see that from you?
Yep, we'll have updates on there, and then also some cut-ins, as you mentioned earlier in the show, during WEIU's primetime.
Yeah, that's kind of cool. One of the things I know that is the bad side of being a weather forecaster is that you are going to do cut-ins. Now, at a PBS station and here, you're probably not going to get anybody that's going to be mad. But have you heard some of these forecasters across the country, including one of our own WEIU former people that won't say when and where, they get off the air and they're getting complaints on social media that you broke into Jeopardy and things. What people forget is that we have a license and an obligation. Talk about that.
Yeah, so especially when it comes to severe weather, tornadoes specifically, like we have the FCC license that we have to act in the public interest, and obviously life-threatening information like a tornado warning is going to take warrant over any programming that may be airing at the time. So that's obviously something we try to do, but we try to keep them as short as we can to try to limit as much anger as possible from the viewers and in and out. And hopefully you just, like the viewers, understand it may not be affecting them, but at the same time, if it is going to be affecting you, you can rely on us to break in for you as well.
Okay. Anything you want to add to?
Keeping it short is probably what we aim for most. I remember last year during the national championship game, Charleston was dealing with some severe weather, and there was cut-ins lasted 5-6 minutes. We try to keep it short, tell you the information, and then get out so you can get back to your programming.
There you go. Now, the other thing that always confuses me still to this day is warning, watches, alerts, all the different lingo that's used. Take us through the hierarchy of worst to, not, the easiest, okay?
So watch is be prepared. It means conditions are possible. The ingredients are there for it to happen, but it could change. We may not see it, we may see it. So we did have winter storm watch going into the weekend for this system. Then we got upgraded to a winter weather advisory. Basically, that is a step below a warning. Advisory means that something's going to happen, but it's not going to be very high impact. It'll just cause some minor inconveniences, but it's something to be aware of. So we were under that until those models shifted and we saw the forecast go up with our snow totals. And then we got that warning. And so warnings means that conditions are imminent or occurring, and it will be a high impact situation, obviously, with winter weather. Winter storm warnings are issued for 6 inches of snow or more, and then blowing snow, ice can also be factored into that.
Anything you want to add, Sue?
No, I think you ever covered it. Yeah, just warning is what we were updated most recently, and that's because we were expecting those higher amounts of snow.
And we're under a warning till 6 a.m. tomorrow. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And what does that mean? I know you've discussed it, but does that mean that is it based on snow, or is it based on snow, cold, and blowing?
Yeah, kind of all four factored in there. We're expecting more than 6 inches of snow, so we meet that criteria, but also the blowing and drifting is kind of factored into that. And so most of the snow will wrap up by midnight tonight, but it'll be blowing around more, so I think that's why they extended it for another 6 hours.
I know people want to get out, and they always like to get out in it. They want to see it. I mean, but the advice really is to stay in unless you absolutely have an emergency tonight. Would you?
Yeah, stay in off the roads, definitely. And even though that this wind chill advisory is expiring, I think it expired at noon, it's still going to be cold for us tonight. So,
What's the best thing about being a weather forecaster?
best thing about being a weather forecaster, I think, meeting the people at WEIU, being around once you get in there for a while. Me and Everett have become the best of friends, especially during these times when we're spending the entire weekend together forecasting the weather. So,
I would say the fact that it always changes. I mean, we always come in. Sometimes we have a stretch of some very boring weather. Sunny and 75 was weatherman's worst forecast. But days like this, there's always something to talk about. And, if you don't like Illinois weather, just hang around for a couple hours. It'll change. So
for forecasters, it's almost opposite. Whenever we get 75 and sunny, for the viewers, they love it. For me and Everett, we moan and groan until something actually happens.
that's
So I guess you answered my next question. What was the worst thing about being a weather forecaster? Is perfect weather.
yeah, that's a
perfect
long
weather, yeah.
3-minute weather hit.
So neither of you need to work in Scottsdale, Arizona, because that's for sure. Do you guys have a weather hero, someone you look up to, besides Cameron Craig, who, by the way, couldn't be at the show today because he, quote unquote, had a meeting. So we're going to find out about that. But is there somebody that you look up to in the weather world?
Well, when I grew up, I watched David Weir a lot. He was formerly at Terre Haute TV station, and so he was one of the main people I followed when I was really little. Then also J.C. Fultz, who's an alum of WEIU. Yep. I job shadowed him several times. And then also Matt Brickman, who worked up in Champaign. He was in 2011 when I became reinterested in weather. I watched him a lot.
I'd say Everett, been known he's going to be a weather person for his whole life. I think when I started to get more interested in weather, Glenn Zimmerman from St. Louis, that's where I'm from, I started watching him all the time. Just that kind of cool hip style about him is what I got into it for.
The other thing cool about WEIU is that we've put a lot of weather people all across the country. And I wish we had the picture, but since we had the show, you put together a photo of all the different weather folks from around the country at different stations and a montage. Really neat when you think about all the people that are out there giving forecasts that have come through the WEIU doors.
Yeah, it's literally coast to coast. We have one meteorologist. She's up in Burlington, Vermont, and another one out in Portland, Oregon, El Paso, Texas. So we stretch across the country, which Cameron always tells us when we grow up to just spread out because it's his plot to take over the world.
There you go.
World domination for Cameron.
Well, on our way. Dream job. Where would you like? Where you have a dream job? The place you want to work? Place, city, town, work?
Not particularly. I want to stay in the Midwest just because, we get all 4 seasons, maybe all in the same day. So I just like the variety of this weather, so I hope to stay in this area.
Yeah, for me, I've followed Cameron's world domination plan, and so I've told him, I'll go travel anywhere around the country, wherever we can find a job when it comes that time.
Now, as you've looked at this afternoon and in tomorrow's forecast, even Wednesday, is it pretty much set, or do you think there's any chance? Because when you look at the radar, I mean, it's a big glob of coming. It doesn't look like it's going to miss us. Is there any chance it's going to miss us, or not going to be as powerful, or does it look like this is pretty one? Brace yourself, folks. It's coming.
Yeah, I think this one's pretty set in stone. As you mentioned, on radar, you can see it building up out of the Gulf. And this system is just pulling a lot of moisture out of the Gulf of Mexico right now. So it's got enough moisture to work with. Obviously, it's cold enough. We're not going to have to worry about a rain-snow line impacting our totals. So I would definitely say that we're going to be seeing some impactful snow, maybe not approaching that foot mark, but that's not really what we're calling for.
Yeah, I think we're right underneath where we're at right now, that 5 to 8 and even more. It's coming.
And you said it'd probably be done by noon tonight, as kind of noon on Monday night, as we're looking at the forecast.
Yeah. Hopefully by tomorrow morning it will clear up. Yeah.
Okay, so possibly decent driving tomorrow after the plows get through. So there you go. Advice to people who have to travel. I know we talk about these travel tips a lot, but I think it's important to let people know if they have to go, what should they have in their vehicles?
Definitely want to have a flashlight, your phone charger. If you will be traveling, have more than a half tank of gas, so that way if you do get stranded, that you'll be able to stay warm in your car and wait until assistant comes. And if you were to go off into a snowdrift or something, make sure your exhaust pipe is clear so you don't have to worry about that. And also some cat litter. That would work in case you were in a slick situation. You can use that for a little bit of traction. And then a snow shovel would be handy in case you have to dig your tires out or something like that. And then extra clothing, always handy.
Jumper cable is always nice to have in the car. I think that's just a common thing to always make sure you have. But also, I think to add on top of that, make sure someone knows where you are, just in case something does happen.
That's a good one. And also, folks, if you have a dog that's outside or a cat, bring them in this evening. All right? There's a lot of people out there that leave their cats and dogs out. It just drives me nuts as an animal lover. I mean, they can sleep on the couch one night of the year. It's not going to kill them. Yeah. It's not going to kill you to let them in there. So remember, if you're cold, they're cold is what I've heard that this weekend. And I think that means a lot. So, all right, I'm going to ask you some rapid-fire questions. We'll go Everett, Lau, and Stephen Elmore back-to-back. And these are kind of weather-related as much as we can as we have fun to wrap up today. And we, again, appreciate you guys coming in. Your favorite weather event is?
Anything severe weather related, tornadoes.
I like the winter weather. I know it's frowned upon with us. We're always scared of it, but it keeps me on my toes.
The movie Twister. You like it or not?
Oh yeah, of course, one of my favorite movies. Into the Storm, which is more modern, also a good one. But
Don't
Twister's
ask. Just answer the question I have because that one might be coming up. Whatever. Come on, stay on task.
Okay.
Love it. I love that movie.
I watched Twister again like 2 weeks ago. It was on. I couldn't not turn it off again. Favorite weather-related movie though of all time?
Probably Twister. I mean, it's a top one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Twister's a good one, but I think a lot of people out there love the Sharknado.
There you go. Wasn't thinking about that one. Advice to any new EIU students who you see coming in the doors over the next 2 years this semester to who want to be weather people. Advice.
Get involved as soon as you can. Go see Cameron and go see Kelly and start as soon as you can.
All right. One fact about your hometown. You're a Paris, Illinois kid, Everett.
Well, we're the home of Brett Eldridge. Most people know that, but I guess that's one of our biggest claims to fame.
There you go. You're from St. Louis, which specific area?
Belleville, Illinois.
Belleville, Illinois. Give us a claim to fame there.
Claim to fame. Let's see here. Got to think of one real quick. Belleville.
Nothing?
Nothing. I can't think of anything off the bat. Oh my!
Well, you're going to have to be that person.
Yeah.
All right. Now this is the question we've all been waiting for. If you didn't know, Stephen is a long snapper on the EIU football team. Everett, if you had to, could you long snap?
I don't even really know what that is, so I don't think so. This is the weather person. I've always said I have the athletic abilities of a turnip, and my sports knowledge is the same.
He doesn't even know what.
And again, like he said earlier, he had his first sports reel this
Yeah,
year.
that's right.
So,
now, well, Stephen, what about one thing that you've learned from Everett?
oh gosh.
Besides the fact he can't long snap.
Yeah, besides the
what
fact
it
he
is.
can't long snap. The day-to-day, getting through, putting through like 7 days and stuff, getting my show put together, Everett has helped out immense. The technical stuff of building slides and building your like your forecast and everything, couldn't have done it without Everett.
Cameron Craig always seems like he's in a good mood when he's around and talking weather. Tell me something about Cameron Craig we don't know.
Well, put me on the spot too. I just know he just really has a passion for weather, and he's always willing to help, which I think we already knew that. Can't think of any other fun stories.
Something we don't know about Cameron. Well, the story that how we met is for his wedding a couple years ago, he needed a DJ, and my family back home has a DJ business, so that's actually how we met.
Oh, really?
Is that he needed the DJ for his wedding.
All right. About 10 seconds each. The total inches of snow, starting yesterday when it started through Tuesday morning, will be?
Oh,
Your guess.
my guess? Oh, I'll put it around.
Here in Coles County.
I'll go with 8 inches.
I'll go one above 9.
All right, there you go. I appreciate you guys coming in on the spot today. And remember, this afternoon, there'll be updates on Facebook, 5:30 Newswatch. Hits tonight at 7, 8, and 9, I believe, and Newswatch Nightcap. WEIU will keep you up to date on weather. Stephen and Everett, appreciate you coming in, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Everybody have a great day. We are WEIU.